We'll get to that. Let's get to some of the games. Let's get to what happened, including, I mentioned the update. Let's break down BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, and TCU came up with wins for the Big 12, and let's start with what BYU did to Colorado.
Yeah, that was a game that I was very much looking forward to and really didn't enjoy watching much of it from a competitive standpoint because BYU just throttled them, just absolutely destroyed the Buffaloes and did not leave any doubts about who the better team on that particular night down in San Antonio was. So that was a tremendous win for Kalani Sitake and his football team, who I know still feel a little bit spurned by the fact they didn't get at least a little bit more playoff love, not necessarily a spot, not necessarily anything just given to them, but they weren't even in the conversation, really, when it came down to those outlier teams. Ole Miss got plenty of discussion, or Alabama got plenty of discussion. BYU got little to no discussion, and I think the timing of their losses and where they started off at the beginning of the season probably played into that, but they had a big exclamation point on what was a great season otherwise. I think you feel like there could have been more, obviously. I mentioned the playoff, didn't even appear in the Big 12 championship game, but outside of those two things, you did just about everything you could possibly do. You beat your arch rival in dramatic fashion. You won a bunch of close games. You won double-digit games. You competed for the Big 12. You just couldn't hold on there at the very end. But I think that was a great way to close out what was a fantastic season for Sitake and the Cougars, and I think that's a team that you start to look at, and it's too early, but it's not, because seasons are ending, so you start to look ahead at next year, and you go, yep, I think BYU is going to get a lot more respect in the preseason poll than they got this last time around.
They jumped on them quickly, Garrett. They also had the onside kick early. They had the fake punt. They ran back a punt.
Correct.
They were all in Shadur's business. He had nothing. There were a couple of plays that they made, but this was dominant in every shape and form of what you could do for BYU and Kalani Sitake.
No, it really was. I think it was a kind of a testament to what he's been able to build with that program and how BYU kind of rallied after nobody really understood what they were going to be coming into the season, and they continually got better. I think they were the more prepared team for this game. I think there was a lot of distractions personally around Colorado, and I mean rightfully so when you have the NFL looking at Shadur and Travis Hunter, you got the Heisman and everything. I just felt like there was a lot more distraction for the Buffs than there was for Kalani Sitake and BYU, whereas they just go in with that workman mentality, that blue collar, and they just went out there and took it to Colorado. The physicality in that game from the Cougars to me was the big difference. And the fact that Colorado's offensive line, like that, well, they reverted back to 2023 or something.
Well, they reverted back to earlier this year. Yeah. It reminded me earlier about how Nebraska thumped them pretty quickly and then got them out of their rhythm. We got some folks here, and I'm going to try to get to all the names at some point. I'm going to give you a list, write your name down, where you're from. I already mentioned Raymond and Mario and Mike Dewey, who are here with us today at the Hilton Hotel Post Oak in Houston, around near the Galleria. Iowa State. This game was unbelievable, dramatic, and they found a way. They had a 15-play, 75, 80-yard drive, took up about 5 or 6 minutes off the clock to win it, and a huge year for Matt Campbell. First ever 10-win year, and now first ever 11-win year, and what a great win for them at 42-41.
Yeah, it was a really fun and entertaining game. I think the biggest story coming out of that, just in general, was Cam Ward obviously sitting out the second half and all of the conversation that surrounded that. It appeared to me, because I don't know if we'll get to it or not, he wanted to break the NCAA record, and once he had that, he decided, all right, I've got that. I want to go ahead and stay healthy. Now, you can debate whether that was selfish or whatever you want to call it, but that was pretty clear to me what it was. And so that left a little bit of a weird taste as far as that game goes, but not if you're Iowa State. You had a thriller, and you had an opportunity there to go and close this season with a huge win, and you took care of business. 11-3 on the year. You're going to finish in the top 20, around the top 15. Record-breaking season, and a lot of guys coming back from this team that, again, you start to look ahead at next year, and it's too early, but it's not. That's another team that I think will get a lot of love because they'll have Becht and company all returning, but he was really good. Becht made some huge plays in that game, and I just thought that was one of the more entertaining contests that I saw throughout the break because there were a lot of blowouts. Now, it wasn't just a playoff. It was a lot of bowl games that were blowouts, a lot of NFL games that were blowouts, but this was actually one of those that left you, sitting there to the very end on the edge of your seat wondering who was going to come through, and it was the Cyclones. So good for them, and a big win for the Big 12.
I saw a lot of, Cam Ward didn't play in the second half. The game was tight when he was in the game at halftime, and all this is about, who was you're playing with who you have. Everybody's got players who aren't there, some more than others. Great win for Iowa State, 42-41. And what were your thoughts about Cam Ward? And whatever the truth might be, you kind of wish Mario Cristobal would have just nutted that pretty quickly off the top.
Well, I mean, I think I would have liked him, if he was going to play, I would have liked him to play the whole game, personally. But I understand where we're at right now. I understand not everybody can be like Colorado and put insurance policies out for players and things. I mean, you probably can, but, they were the forefront of that. So I understand it from that perspective. I think it's frustrating for Miami that it comes down to literally a final drive and you don't have your guy in there when you can make the argument that he would have, obviously he would have put him in a better position to drive the field. But at the same time, I think it's one where I don't like it, but I understand the situation. Now, Mario Cristobal should have nipped that in the bud. That's on him. So any questions going at Cam Ward, that needs to go to the coach, in my opinion.
And anytime someone, especially like my age, or even it doesn't have to be my age, but you're like, I'm not being a get off my lawn. Do whatever you want to do. It's your career. You play if you want. You can take yourself out. It's just kind of hard to kind of understand and fathom, in my opinion. But he did get the record as far as touchdown passes and was good. He wasn't great, and it was not a one-sided game while he was there. And when he was there, the game was tight at halftime, and then Iowa State had that march down the field to win it in the last few minutes. K-State got a win. This was also dramatic. TCU blew out Louisiana. Those are the four teams in the Big 12 who won. Those were a couple other games to bring up before we get into a little bit of that LSU-Baylor game and much more.
Yeah, K-State and Rutgers was another one of the more entertaining games. I thought Tech and Arkansas was a pretty entertaining game as well, although obviously you don't mention them because Tech not able to get the W. Their first bowl loss for Joey McGuire in his 3 tries. But, yeah, K-State had a really nice ending, and Rutgers just the back and forth in that game. Big fourth quarter by K-State to grab hold of the lead and hold on to it. Dylan Edwards with an absolutely monstrous game. Obviously, Avery Johnson's going to get some love, and rightfully so. But another team where you, again, start to look at next year and maybe a springboard launching pad. I don't know in this era of NIL how much momentum carries over, really. All I know is it does give you some extra time to practice with your guys, and I think this was definitely beneficial for a Kansas State team that was kind of trying to hold it all together there at the end. Did not finish particularly strong in the Big 12 title race, even though they were one of the favorites to begin with, but they did finish the season strong amidst weeks of rumors about Chris Kleiman and his future and just kind of the trajectory. I think you got to take a deep breath, enjoy a win, and finally get into the offseason and kind of regroup if you're the Wildcats. But a nice win there to go ahead and close it on out.